have come to get you, Connor O'Malley.
Hello and welcome to Kaiju Review.
Giant monster movies are usually about a monster stomping through a city, causing massive amounts of property damage.
This movie isn't about any of that. Well, except for the property damage. This monster movie is about something else.
Today we'll be covering A Monster Calls, based on the book of the same name. As a boy, Connor O'Malley sleeps one night. A church nearby graveyard begins collapsing into the ground as Connor struggles to hold onto his mother. Then he wakes. The next morning, Connor prepares breakfast and does the laundry, checks in on his mother before heading to school. In school, his teacher asks Connor if he's getting enough rest, but he claims he's fine, so the teacher continues the lesson. The school bully, Harry, and his friends bullies Connor.
When Connor gets home, his mother shows him a film projector, and that night the two watch King Kong.
I think I heard of that one.
Later that night, Connor is drawing when he witnesses the emergence from a nearby church's yew tree of a large tree-like monster. The monster visits the boy and steals him from his room. The monster informs him that he will visit Connor again to tell him 3 stories, and that Connor is to tell the monster a 4th, the truth behind the boy's recurring nightmare. The boy wakes in his own room.
Connor climbs into his mother's bed. Though she is initially against it, she allows the boy to rest there. The next morning, Connor visits the old church but stops at the gate before returning home to learn that his grandmother has come to visit.
When she learns the boy is there, Grandma tells Connor to get them drinks, specifying Mom's drink without even asking her. When preparing the tea, Connor overhears the two arguing before Grandma comes into the kitchen to talk to the boy. The two also argue, and we learn that Mom is quite ill, but Connor believes she'll get better. Grandma reveals that she intends for Connor to come live with her, which the boy refuses. Mom then collapses, and Grandma tells Connor to bring the medicine.
The night Connor is visited by the monster again and tells the boy of a kingdom ruled by a wise king who'd lost his 3 sons to monsters and men. When his wife dies, he was left with only his grandson, the prince. The king falls in love with a new woman, a witch, and marries her, much to the prince's chagrin. After the king died, the witch became the queen, as the prince was too young to rule. The witch who covets the crown still sought to marry the prince, though the prince himself loves the farmer's daughter. The prince flees with his lover, who winds up dead. Prince sets the kingdom's forces against the witch, using the power of the monster to rid the kingdom of her forever.
Not gonna lie, this whole segment is beautifully animated.
The monster then reveals that he had spared the queen as the prince had killed his lover himself, plotting the blame on the witch to turn the kingdom against her, regardless of whether she was responsible for killing the king or not. While Connor wonders how this will help him deal with his grandmother, the monster departs.
Sometime after, Connor returns home and learns that his father will be returning from America soon, and that Connor will be staying with Grandma for a few days. Connor visits Mom in her bedroom, learning that Mom's latest treatment isn't working, and the doctors are going to try a new one. Connor takes his frustration out on some trash, and at school, Harry tells another bully not to touch Connor, because Harry's the only one who's allowed to. Harry also confronts Connor about staring at him all the time.
Connor arrives at his grandma's house and she tells him the time on the old clock that belonged to her own mother is the correct time, not any other time. She asks him to keep his father from staying at the hospital too long, though she also makes a comment about Dad leaving early, telling him not to touch anything before leaving. While listening to music, Connor touches just about everything. Connor tries to peek into the room and he hears the doorbell and goes to greet his father.
At an amusement park, Dad and Connor spend some time with each other. Dad mentions bringing Connor to LA over Christmas, though Connor wants to stay with his dad because he doesn't want to be with Grandma. But Dad says that there's barely enough room with his new family alone, and that doing so would be unfair, though Connor questions to whom. After Dad drives Connor back to Grandma's, the boy asks his dad why he came, but when Dad has no response, Connor leaves.
At Grandma's, Connor is frustrated and he grows impatient waiting for the monster and tries to change the old clock, accidentally breaking it. The monster appears before him and tells him the second story.
There was once an apothecary who peddled cures to a town that had advanced in industry, until a parson came to town and, seeking to keep his followers from harm, denounced the apothecary as a charlatan. This caused the apothecary to lose business, though he refused to abandon said business, and needing material for his craft sought to cut down a yew tree, which the parson refused to allow. Then the parson's daughters grew ill, and when medicine and prayer could not cure them, the parson begged the apothecary to save his daughters. The stubborn apothecary turned the parson away, but when the parson claimed he would give up everything to save his daughters, including his beliefs, the apothecary told him that he could not save the girls. The night that the daughters died, the monster attacked the parson's home.
Once again, the story has a fantastic art style. The monster begins destroying the parson's house and explains that faith is half the cure. He asks Connor to tell him what to destroy next. The monster destroys the home and goads Connor into joining into the destruction. As it turns out, Connor took his frustrations out on his surroundings, destroying nearly everything, including the old clock. Then Grandma returns home to find the devastation. After soaking it in, she destroys the one thing left standing before leaving the room.
The next morning, Connor finds Dad in the kitchen making breakfast. He tells Connor that Mom was taken to the hospital. Dad doesn't punish Connor for destroying the clock, seeing no point to it. Amidst the wreckage, Dad finds discs of Connor as a young age and tells Connor that Mom had intended to go to college, but Connor deduces she couldn't because she had him. Dad tells the boy that Mom never once regretted having the boy, and that her only regret was marrying him, though he admits she did so because he was handsome. He also tells the boy he's happy that Connor's taken after her.
At the hospital, Connor learns that his mom had a bad reaction to her last treatment and they are going to try one more thing. Mom claims it comes from the yew tree, like the one near their home. Connor calls for the monster and asks him if the cure will work, and monster claims it will if she can be cured, but it's not time for the third tale, and so monster leaves, telling the boy not to waste precious time given to him.
Dad is ready to leave, mentioning that Connor will come visit him for Christmas, but Connor doesn't want to leave Mom alone. Dad tells him that the cure, due to being so last-ditch, might not work, which Connor refuses to believe, telling Dad about the monster. Dad tells Connor to be brave, and after the boy hugs him, Dad leaves for America once more.
Connor begins cleaning out the debris from the other night. That night, Connor finds himself unable to sleep. Connor finds his grandma watching home movies of Connor and Mom painting. As time passes, Mom continues to get worse, and the monster doesn't return, and the boy draws more frequently, creating a picture of the monster.
At school, Connor grows more distant. Harry confronts Connor and tells him he refuses to bully the boy anymore, as it's not worth his attention. The monster appears and tells Connor of an invisible man who wanted to be noticed. The man wasn't really invisible, people just didn't notice him, and the man began questioning his existence. The man asked the monster to make people see him. Connor rushes at Harry. Did anybody else see the tables being flung around, or was it just Connor in the audience?
In the principal's office, we learn that Connor has sent Harry to the hospital and his parents are threatening to sue. Though the rules state that Connor should be expelled, she can't bring herself to do it so and claims there's no point in punishing him. As he walks through the halls of school, people can't help to notice the boy and Connor is taken out of class.
Grandma takes Connor to the hospital and waits outside while he visits Mom. She tells him that the last-ditch treatment isn't working, which frustrates Connor. He still believes there's another treatment, which saddens Mom. She tells him she understands without him needing to say a word, and to let out all of his anger and frustration over what's happening to her.
Connor runs to the yew tree, upset he didn't heal his mom. The monster appears and reveals he came to heal Connor. Connor asks the monster to help him, but it is time for Connor to tell the fourth tale, the truth of his nightmare. As the cemetery begins to collapse, Mom falls into the abyss. Though he grabs her hand to save her, Connor finds himself letting her go and allowing her to fall.
The monster insists he confess, and Connor angrily admits he wishes the whole ordeal were over. The monster is pleased that Connor was finally honest, and Connor admits that he knew nothing could save her, but didn't want to admit it to himself. Though Connor is still upset over even thinking of giving his mother over to death, the monster relates the 3 previous stories and tells the boy that humans are complicated creatures, and that it's not what one thinks, but what one does that matters, and praises the boy for speaking his truth. The boy falls asleep as the monster returns to being a tree.
That night, Grandma finds Connor and takes him to the hospital. The car is blocked by the railroad crossing. Grandma admits that she and Connor aren't a very good match, but she wants to try living with the boy, and they have his mother in common. They make it to the hospital, and Connor is hesitant, but the monster gives him courage, and the boy speaks with his mother one final time before she passes on.
We may be crying right now,
But so are you. Also, before she dies, it's implied that the mother was the one who summoned the monster to help Connor, so there's that.
Connor returns to Grandma's home, and she gives him the key to his new room, which she had been decorating since he started staying with her. Connor looks through a book of pictures his mother drew when she was younger, and finds the stories he'd been told drawn in the book, revealing that she had known the monster herself when she was younger. That was A Monster Calls, one of my personal favorite giant monster movies.
It's not your normal kaiju movie. It's way different, but it's still good.
I love how this movie eschews the standard tropes of the genre to tell an engrossing story that pulls on your heartstrings.
I 100% agree. I've lost 2 very loving people to this disease.
Sorry to hear about that, Brian, but it's okay, and I'm sure they're proud.
It's time to bring this episode of Kaiju Review to an end, before we start crying again.
I'm Protomat.
I'm Tank.
Bye.
Bye.